Shall I start? Okay. Hello, everyone. So my name is David Billouz, and I'm very happy that I'm not alone in this presentation today. So I'm going to talk obviously about this new version of PRINCE2. Before I start, just a quick question. Are you familiar with the with some previous versions of this project management method?
50-50.
Okay, so it means that you or know some of them, or what
Yes.
exactly? Okay.
Like I sorry, I self-studied for the certificate. I didn't finish the self-study yet, but I would like to take it in the near future. So here I am.
Okay, so for this new version, okay?
Yes, yeah.
Good. Okay, so in fact, today we will talk about we'll make, of course, a recap of what is project management, a bit of background. I don't want to take too much time on that, but it's very important to get the background before we dive into the details. And I will also explain you, in fact, the philosophy behind the scene of PRINCE2 7th edition, because it's always important in this kind of presentation that you understand what is not only presented officially, but what are many things, in fact, that conduct the authors of the book to this version. So that's also important. And that's what I will try also to figure out with you today. Okay, so let's start. So PRINCE2 is still PRINCE2, so it's still a project in a controlled environment. Okay, that's the name for Prince. It's PRINCE2. It exists for a long time. For instance, this version of PRINCE2 exists since 1996. And it's a real method that is structured. It doesn't change. It is structured. It's not we will see that it's not a body of knowledge, detailed body of knowledge. You don't have a lot of detailed techniques, even though in this version of PRINCE2 we will have much more technique than in the previous one. And also this method, I would say, is universal. I even know people that plan their wedding using PRINCE2, so you can really use it for any types of project. Okay. So when we talk about project, of course, you know the definition of PRINCE2 regarding project is always the same. We don't have it here clearly, but what is a project? A project is a means for change. Okay. So that's very important. That's why, for instance, in this new version of PRINCE2, you have so-called change management approach. So it means that before we start the project, the product doesn't exist. At the end of the project, the product is here, ready to be used by the user, and of course accepted by the users, by the organization in charge of maintaining it. Okay, so, and a project, it's all this series of tasks, you know, you may know this different step of project. First, you plan things, then you delegate the execution of the plan, then you, in fact, check whether you are, in fact, according to the plan, and then you take some corrective action that you plan again and again and again. So it's this kind of iterative set of tasks, okay, that in fact leads to a product. And if the product is properly used, then we will see the business, in fact, meets its objectives. Okay. So in fact, we create some outcomes. If you have any questions, anything, please let me know, because as you can see, I am speaking, but I'm not here to make only a conference, but to have an interaction with you. So if you have any question, please feel free to ask, okay? So when we talk about project management, we talk about a standardized approach. As I explained you have different steps in project management. And I would say one of the key things in project management, it has been the case in the previous version of PRINCE2, it is still the case here, is delegation. Okay, we have standardized approach, so that means that we still have in PRINCE2 some processes. We have process, for instance, to initiate a project. We have a process before that to ask the question whether it makes sense to start or not the project. So all these processes are divided into activities. And what is a key thing here is to know to delegate, how to delegate, in fact, at the right level of management, these activities. Delegation is the key in this method. And obviously, it's a key in project management. In my career, I saw so many, and I'm sure that you have it in your experience, so many project managers wanted to do much more than they have to, or, or on the opposite, many project managers delegating too much to their colleagues, that at the end of the day, tasks are incomplete, tasks are not measured, tasks are duplicated, or, and that's the worst case, tasks are not executed. So project management, generally speaking, needs to ensure that we have this project performance objective that are fulfilled. What are the project management objectives? You have to deliver your project. Do you know the acronym called OTFOP? Does any of you know the acronym called OTFOP? It's a question. Eva, you may know it, no? No?
Me neither.
Sorry?
Me neither. I don't know it.
You don't know OTFOB?
Teach me.
I try to, I do my best to make this a bit interactive. Sorry for that. If you don't want me to ask you question, just tell me, David, don't bother me. It's very easy, Okay, but if you are still open for discussion, which I would appreciate, I will give you the answer to this question. OTFOB, it's a very classic acronym for on time, in full, on budget, which are the basic for a project. You want to deliver the project on time, according to the planning, okay, in full, according to the scope, and on budget, obviously, according to the cost. Okay, but this is not enough when we talk about project management. To measure whether or not the project perform well, we still have to manage risk, we still have to manage benefits, we still have to manage the quality of product, and in PRINCE2 7, we have a seventh, I would say, type of performance indicator for the project, which is the sustainability. So we need to ensure that, for instance, the I would say the footprint of the product that we deliver on, for instance, the environment is according or is compliant with the standard of the organization, for instance. So they introduce the sustainability as a new in PRINCE2 7 as a new performance indicator of a project. So it's not only about time, only about money, only about quality, but it's also about sustainability. Okay. Clear? Yes?
Mhm.
So now you know OTFOB, and there is a Czech company called POTIFOB because of that, project on time, in full, on budget. Okay, when we talk about project manager, here it's just the importance to show that, the importance of project manager worldwide. You see, what is interesting here is this statistic. By about now 4 years from now, or or 3 years for now, because we are already near almost in 2024. Businesses, so that means organization, generally speaking, will need about 87.7 million professionals in project management roles. Okay, we don't have exactly the statistic in different things, but of course, with PeopleSet, we can give you more details. It's a massive amount of new people. And in fact, we will see there is a slide on that project managers, there is a real generation gap. Okay, we have a lot of project managers who are 40 plus years old. It's about 70% of project managers currently. So there is a huge demand when you compare these two figures for training in project management method. Okay, to fill this gap. It's a generation gap, and I'm sure that PRINCE2, okay, and PRINCE2 training will partially, because you have other methods, address this gap. Okay, so the skills of project manager are important. As I told you, we need to be sure that we have we can delegate, we can communicate, we can collaborate. Collaborate means that we have a common goals, okay, so that people are not, maybe you also have this experience in your project. The problem in project or in any kind of activities is that you still have some, let's say, not only conflicts of interest, but you still have some silos. You know what silos are?
Yes.
You know what a silo is? Yeah. So this is, in fact, a project by nature is cross-functional and needs to ensure that, at least for the purpose of the project, everybody is on the same page. And collaboration is about that. Collaboration means we work together for the same goal, and goal is obviously the product that we need to deliver, but not only the product, the change that in fact is along this product, because implementing a new product or developing a new product is just part of the story. You all know what is more important on that is all this organizational change management, to be sure that people will adopt this new product, will not resist to this change. So that it's very important. You need to communicate. You need to be a good problem solver. A project manager in his project, I would say 90% of his time is solving any issue with people, issue with product, issue with partner, issue with tools. Okay, that's the raison d'être of a project manager. Okay, he also needs to be sure that he doesn't create tasks that are perceived as I would say useless for their peers in a project or for their collaborators, because otherwise, and that was the main reason why they also changed this to this new version of PRINCE2. Nobody in a project should perceive a project as too bureaucratic. If a project is seen as too bureaucratic, you do too much work in terms, as we say, the paperwork, you know, the reporting, the documentation of the configuration of the product. I don't say we don't need that, but the project manager should really ensure that we have a good balance between the results and the bureaucracy. That's what we call the improved efficiency. Sorry. So we have a lot of different skills. You have them here, and I see that we will be able to, this session is recorded, so we will be able to look at them more in details. But those are the skills that are very important to manage a project. And of course, one thing I didn't say, we talk about project manager skills, but in PRINCE2, as you know, PRINCE2 is the only method in project management, that is not focused only on the project manager role. It is the only one. That's a differentiator between PRINCE2 and other methods. and I don't want to name any other method, but all the other methods on the market are focusing on what is the project manager role, what does the project manager role, with who the project manager role work. But they don't talk about, for instance, the project board. They don't talk about the team managers. They don't talk about these roles. Okay, so if you have these skills here, you can also apply some of them to the other roles that we have in PRINCE2. This is another important thing related to the skills. Oops, sorry. So what are the trends? I told you that there was we need to adapt. Of course, PRINCE2 needs to adapt to the trend of I would say, generally speaking, the way we manage product. But anyway, the trends derived from our current world. And what are the trends? For instance, here we need to emphasize also not only on digital and data analytics. Okay, for instance, data analytics. Okay, you all know that many organizations declare themselves as data-driven organization. What it means? What does a data-driven organization mean? Do you know what this means when we talk about data analytics? What does that mean that an organization is data-driven? Any idea? No. In fact, a data-driven organization means that the organization or the managers, the decision makers of the organization take their decision not based on assumptions, feelings, personal interest, but based on data. So they need data to decide. They need a business case, and it's not something that is new. They need a real business case, okay, to take the decision whether they want to start or not the project. It's an example. And data analytics, in fact, gives you the opportunity to have data from many different sources, much more various sources than before. So we need to have skills to understand data analytics, to understand all this, I would say, intelligence that can be, in fact, nurtured from data. And that's why also in PRINCE2 7, we have an approach called the digital and data management approach. That's directly derived from that. So there is a new management approach. You may know some management approaches from the previous version of PRINCE2. The classic management approach is, for instance, quality management approach, how we manage quality of the product. Okay, but here in this new version, they have quite a lot of new management approaches, and one of them is digital and data management approach. What it means? It means which tool will we use to manage the project, and what are the information flow we need to manage the project. Okay, the information we need between the different stakeholders of the project, information related to the product to make sure that, for instance, we can assess the impact of a change in a product. All that information are now managed in one approach that is part of the project initiation documentation, which is the digital and data management approach. Of course, we have the development in artificial intelligence. Honestly, I don't think that there will be a new kind of project manager called ChatGPT or generative AI, maybe. But in any case, artificial intelligence is here to stay, and we are just at the beginning of this the developments and of the use cases of that. So we need to understand what we can do now, what we will be able to do in the future to manage project using these capabilities. That's this part. The other part, which is the soft skills, everything here, what we say is that soft skills remain. You still need to engage with stakeholders. You still need to manage conflict. You still need to be a good negotiator if you're a project manager. You still need to see what is your scope of control and what is your scope of influence. Influencing, what it means. You know, when you deliver a product at the end of a project, okay, in fact, it's up to the customer and the users to use it properly. But during, for instance, a pilot phase, last phase of your project, you can influence their behavior. You can emphasize the benefits of using this product, of using this and this functionality for them. So this is about all that. We influence what we cannot control, and we master what we can control. These are the skills you need. And of course, in the soft skills, you need to be able to manage changes. There is another approach in PRINCE2, a new one in PRINCE2 7th edition, which is the change management approach. And in fact, the change management approach is not about the mechanic way, a procedure, if you want, to manage a request for change in a project. It's much more related to the organizational change management. Do you know what organizational change management is? No? Yes? Okay, so I will assume that you don't know. Organizational change management is, in fact, what we call the human part of change management. It means it's to identify the resistance to change and to be sure that people will, at the end of the day, at the end of the project, be able and willing to use this product and not come back to a previous situation when, for instance, they had an old tool and they don't want to change to the new tool. Typical situation. Okay, so well, it's important here in change management, also in the change management approach, they describe, in fact, what is the current state when you start the project and what is the target state, and how, in fact, the ecosystem of the project, that's the new name, because in PRINCE2 previous version, we were talking about the project environment. Now we talk about the project ecosystem, which is much more accurate. The ecosystem is, in fact, all the stakeholders that can have a direct impact on your project or can be impacted by the project. So when we talk about change management, we really define what is the target state, okay? The target state is not only about having a new product, but it's about having a new product, at the end of the project with the maximized chance that users will use it properly. That's the target state. And from the current state to the target state, you can have some intermediate states that you will, in fact, snapshot during your project. Okay, so you will see, okay, now we use this old system. At the middle of the project, for instance, some of them in a pilot are starting to use the new system. And at the end of the project, now we open to the all users to use this new system. So we can have different states, and we need, in fact, in a project, not only to address the I would say the completion of product, but also to monitor in which state our ecosystem is. And that's very important because we will see that PRINCE2 7th is about people. That's the new thing. It's about people. Without people, we can't make it. Without people, we can't sustain it. That's the main message. Another trend which is important is the project management office. I'm doing this webinar now from a customer where I design a project management office for them, okay? And in fact, project management office is not only about managing or resolving conflict of resources between projects. It has become more strategic. Okay, it has become more related to the portfolio management. And when we talk about portfolio management, there is a link between portfolio management, which is about managing resources for what? To fulfill the strategy of the organization. So we are really now positioning the project management office as a strategic capability in an organization, and a project management office, as you know, one of his duty is to define, select different project management method, create his own one, or for us, that would be the best if they choose upfront PRINCE2 and they make sure that we can use PRINCE2 in an organization. So that's one of the duties. So this is a trend that we need to also, that's been addressed in PRINCE2. Okay, PRINCE2. I already explained that. So you see, you have more than 1 million professionals using that. It's available depending on the version of the edition. But for instance, the 5th edition, which has been massively translated in different languages, you have it in 18 languages. By the way, a good news for you, if you don't know that, PRINCE2 7th edition will be, for instance, available in much more languages than the 6th edition. Obviously, it will be in German, but it will be also, for instance, Eva, you are located in Prague, right?
Yes, exactly.
So it will be, for instance, this new version during next year. I don't know exactly the date, but will be available in Czech. Okay, so you will have PRINCE2 7th edition in Czech language. Okay, which is a good news, or a bad news. We will see the quality of the translation. But they saw and they reacted to the let's say the questions and the reaction and in fact the request from the ecosystem of accredited training organizations who wanted more languages available for this method. So it will be available. Okay. PRINCE2, we know what PRINCE2 is, but we must also know, and it didn't change. In fact, it's not a body of knowledge. If you want a body of knowledge, and you know the difference is what? A body of knowledge, by essence, is a body. Mean what? Means that you can, in fact, use its content per partes. PRINCE2 is and remains an integrated method. So it means that it's not about just using part of PRINCE2. If you want to use PRINCE2, you have it as it is. You have it, of course, you can tailor it. We will not discuss that today, but it's an integrated method. So the processes are integrated with the practices. The practices are integrated with the principles. The principles are integrated or used in any project ecosystem. Okay, whether, for instance, if you look at the American Project Management Institute body of knowledge, it's a body of knowledge, meaning that you can take some techniques from this body of knowledge and apply them in isolation from others. So that's very important. So it's an integrated method. In PRINCE2, you don't have an exhaustive list of project techniques. You have more than what we had in the 6th edition, but again, you don't have all the techniques. For instance, you have more techniques. You have techniques like how you estimate the work for a task. Okay, estimation techniques. And for that, for instance, you can use some estimation techniques derived from Agile. By the way, which is a good news, PRINCE2, you may know, did you know PRINCE2 Agile? Do you know PRINCE2 Agile? Any of you knows PRINCE2 Agile, the book and
Yes.
the training? Maybe you offer
Yes.
that to your customers, or maybe you get it. And in fact, PRINCE2 7th edition, and I know what I'm talking about because I also deliver the PRINCE2 Agile course. In fact, I would say 99% replaces PRINCE2 Agile. You don't need PRINCE2 Agile anymore if you go for PRINCE2 7th edition.
So we shouldn't sell it anymore?
We are recording, so yes, you can sell it. What I just say is that yes, what I just the recording is not a joke, by the way. Why I just say is that you have a lot of all when you look at Prince2 Agile, they were emphasizing how we can use different Agile framework, mainly for the team management, for the teams, project teams. Here, in fact, all these techniques are embedded in Prince2. So for instance, you have they talk about the user story, they talk about the techniques to estimate, they talk about the personas. Okay, all these things are, which are mainly agile, are fully integrated in Prince2. So really, Prince2 7th edition can fully be applied in an agile environment, in a waterfall environment. So that's why you can still use Prince2 Agile if you want to know more, for instance, about Kanban and Scrum and so on. But if you work in an agile environment, then Prince2 7th edition should be enough for you. Okay, of course, Prince2 is universal. I already explained that. We have some testimonials you can look. For instance, you see there's a testimonial from GmbH, which should be a German. You have a lot of German testimonials. You can add yours if you want, Silva. Sorry. Yeah. You see Konica Minolta, which is also a good organization. In fact, they are also in the Czech Republic quite active. Anyway, you have different testimonials. So one thing is, of course, as we say that you have some figures about the demand on project management. I will not, I already explained you that when we'll add a look at the number of professionals that are needed by 2027. And obviously, we were not here if project management was not in high demand. It remains the case. Here, let's focus on this slide because this is an important one. In fact, this is, in a nutshell, what is Prince2 7th edition about. And you see the key thing here is people. People is really in the middle of this method, okay? In fact, in the previous version of Prince2, you had what they call 4 integrated elements. Now you have 5 integrated elements, okay? You have the project context, which was the project environment before that. So that means in a project, you still have a customer, you still have a supplier. We will see, in fact, in Prince2, they don't talk about customer by default. They say that in a project, you have a business, that's the word they use, and you have supplier. Only if there is a commercial sort of relationship between the business and the supplier, then the business is renamed to customer. So customer in Prince2 is a specific name used for business. The generic name is business. But if there is a relationship, like for instance, if you are internal, you deliver an internal project for another part of your organization, you don't charge for them, and it's all part of an organization, then the business is the customer of your project. But if you are a service provider delivering a new product for an external customer and you have a contract, then the customer, the name business is not used. You use the word customer. Okay, so they try to really be more precise in the terminology they use. So the project context is also, it's about business and supplier. We still have the processes. We still have 7 processes. Instead of having themes, now we have practices, but we still have 7 practices. We have 7 principles, which are the DNA of Prince2, and which is important, we have the people part. The people part, it's about the culture, it's about the organizations, it's about the skills, it's about the communication. People is really in the center of this new method. So there is a specific chapter in the book related to people. And if you get the exam, my advice, really deeply focus on this because you have a lot of difficult questions related to this new chapter, especially in the practitioner exam. Regarding the principle, they are the same as in the previous version of PRINCE2. So nothing changed. We still need a business justification for the project. We still have to learn from experience when we manage a project, and so on and so on. I will not go in the details because this is not something new related to this method. You have exactly the same principles in the previous versions. So that means the 6th editions, the 5th edition of PRINCE2. The 7 practices, they use practices, you know, in PeopleCert, they try to build some bridges between the different frameworks and methods they sell. And practices is mainly used in another method. You may know where in PeopleCert, in another framework or method. It's not a method, it's a framework, or it's not really a framework, but where in which other, let's say, PeopleCert product we heavily talk about practices. Sorry?
ITIL. ITIL.
Yes, in
ITIL.
ITIL,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes, in ITIL. Yes, so, and in ITIL, when we talk about practices, just for you to know, behind the curtain, in fact, the word practices in PeopleCert was very difficult to choose. Why? Because in fact, they wanted to use the word capability. A practice is a capability. But they say if we use the word capability, it will be difficult to translate. People will not get it. So we use practice, okay? But in fact, a practice is a capability. What it means is a capability. It's something that you can use in your organization. And if you use that, you will allocate resource for that. And in fact, it gives you, I would say, some templates, some structured approach. We were talking about having a structured approach. The practices are here to have a structured approach on the what. Practices is about the what. Principle is about the why. Processes is about the how. So here, when we talk about practices, we talk about what we need to manage in order to make our project a success. And they added that the what is not only the main part. So in fact, in PRINCE2 7th edition, we answered the 5 questions. Where? The project context. Why? The principles. How? Or what? The practices. How? The processes, and who? The people. Okay, that's the way they structured PRINCE2 7th edition. I do hope that you take some notes, even if it is recorded. Is it okay? Do you have any questions so far?
Not so far, thank you.
Okay. So when we talk about the processes, here we have the processes. As I said, this is not something new in PRINCE2 7th edition. So you still have 7 processes that are in fact conducted by different roles or different levels of project management. You have the project board level, the project manager level, and the team manager level. Okay, and you see that the team manager obviously is only in charge of managing product delivery, whereas the main processes remain to the project manager, with the project board that is in charge of directing the project. So that means taking decision to start the project and continue the project and end the project. So some pain points. I will not have a look at that, but in details. But the pain points for professional, for instance, poor communication. So in project, poor communication, scope creeping. That's a thing that is important. What it means, scope creeping? Scope creeping means that at the beginning of a project, you define the scope of your project, and during the project, you have so many changes in your project that at the end, the scope of your project is completely different many cases much bigger than what you had. So the customer added some new features, for instance, for a system, for a product, and you implemented that. So at the end of the day, the supplier lost some money. The customer is not very happy because we didn't have a lot of time for testing everything. So scope creeping is how your in fact scope of your project evolves in an uncontrolled way. So we need to address these kind of things. You have many other things, but these are some of the pain points that are obviously addressed by PRINCE2. Okay. So, for instance, other pain points that are important to it's you. For instance, you have limited resources. Okay. So that's why when we talk about people, that's also important. We talk about having the right resources at the right time for the right products. Okay. And in PRINCE2, the combination of people with the practices ensure that you really have the people that you need to conduct the activities of the processes. So, and that's what we see in many organizations. I don't know how it is in your organization, but in some organizations, we don't really bother. We should, but we don't always bother with what is the available capacity of our people involved in a project. In other words, do they really have time for this project? And in many organizations, they say, until the fact that somebody, till the fact that he doesn't say stop, we can increase, in fact, the number of tasks we give to this person. And it's not the best way, in fact, to manage a project. So these are the kind of things that we try to address in this new version of PRINCE2. So one thing I would take from that, or two things, it's vintage, now old-fashioned. PRINCE2 was perceived as vintage, as been, as too waterfall, as I said. Now in PRINCE2, we can use it also in an agile, and also too complex, too bureaucratic. Okay, the language was complex. Now they really try to encourage, for instance, continual improvement, to step by steps, to you have this people part. We start with the people to be sure that because the main concerns in project are from people and from the ecosystem. Okay. So what's new? As I say, it's focused on people. We have some new management approaches. Okay. For instance, there is a sustainable management approach. So it means a sustainable management approach is an approach in PRINCE2 about how we manage, in fact, that the products we create and deliver during the project are aligned, compliant with the sustainability goals of the organization. Of course, when we talk about sustainability goals, many people have in mind the goals from the United Nations, the 17 goals, and these 17 goals are described in PRINCE2 7 book. Okay, but that's just an example. Your organization can have some specific goals regarding sustainability, and we need to be sure that any product that you deliver or you create in a project are aligned with these goals. Okay, so you have different new management approach, sustainability management approach, change management approach, the organizational change management, digital and data management approach. It's a new approach of how you use digital technology to manage your project. Okay, this is a new approach which makes this method more up to date. Okay, why to choose PRINCE2? There is you may know the BCS organization, the British Computer Society, which is 60 years old already, this institution. So it's I would say a reference. And they conducted a survey about 340 projects, and they say, okay, on average, we have a failure rate of project between 50 and 65. And in fact, here, with project, in fact, they saw that project with PRINCE2 has a success rate of 78%. You may say, yes, it's maybe too narrow survey, but at least, as I said, we have figures, we have data that we can use, in fact, to say, okay, that using PRINCE2 prevent a lot of projects to fail and improve the success of many of them. That's what we can say using these figures. So regarding the PRINCE2 7th edition, it is still a PRINCE2 method in terms of certification. We still have these two levels. We have the PRINCE2 7 foundation and we have the PRINCE2 7 practitioner. Okay. The good news is, for instance, that if you have the 6th edition of PRINCE2, then foundation, then for instance, you can directly get the PRINCE2 7th edition practitioner. That's what I did, for instance. Okay. And for the PRINCE2 7 foundation, it's a foundation level. So that means no prerequisite, closed book exam. You have 60 minutes, okay, 1 hour. And you have one minute per question because you have 60 questions. And you need to have at least 36 marks to pass the exam. It's a, as you know, a proctored exam organized by PeopleCert. Okay. And for the practitioner, it's more, you have 100, so 2.5 hours. As English is not my mother language, as you can imagine, I had more than 3 hours to get this test. What I would say is that be very prepared for this practitioner. The PRINCE2 7 practitioner is a difficult exam, really difficult one. And you need to get at least 60%, so that means 42 marks to get it. If you want to be an accredited trainer, you need 70%. So that means you need 49 marks. So we have already some feedback from the reviewer, you know. And one other thing is that when we talk about who are the end users, I told you that, for instance, in PRINCE2, we talk about the, we use the personas, for instance, to identify what are the typical, the archetype, as we say, of the users of the product, to be sure that we also take into account who they are, how they behave, and in the product, because we need to maximize the chance that they will use the product. And in fact, here we have some example of roles and some personas that we will see in another slide. But what we have in project manager, in statistics, sorry, regarding project manager, so why we need and what is important, okay, the average annual salary doesn't mean anything to none of you because none of you works in the US. But you have the average annual salary of a project manager in the US. That's okay. But what is the most important thing here? You see, among project managers, 70% are like me, over 40. I am now nearly over 50, by the way, and about 25% are between 30 and 40. Okay, so you see that we still have a generation gap to fill. And here you have some personas, okay? So for instance, we say that if you are in an organization, what we want, we do a range of projects, digital logistics, and so on. We need a method that enables and is relevant to all of these. So what they did in PRINCE2 is that they really use some concept like the personas to define their markets, to define the needs of the project management method like PRINCE2. Okay, for instance, here they say I want a modern certification that teaches me the skills needed to be a good project manager. And we talk about the skills in the people chapter of the book. They really talk about these skills, the soft skills that you need, and something, in fact, that that was already addressed in other methods like in IPMA, but now is part of PRINCE2. So that really they really made a good effort of addressing or being in fact compliant with the modern, I would say, trend in the current world. So that's it. I want to thank you for this presentation, and we still have time for some questions. Do you have any questions, anything specific that you want to ask related to this new method?
Not for now, thank you. Everything seems clear.
Yes. Do you use PRINCE2 in DHL also?
Yes, we do a lot.
Yes, because it's part of Dutch Post, right?
Yes, technically yes, and we are in the IT department, so especially we need to implement a lot of Prince